This home was built by my parents in 1966, and it sits on my grandfather's farm. It has been a very interesting process for us, but it's very soul satisfying to move back into the home where I grew up, and my husband feels like it's his home now too. My mother was a home ec teacher, and Mom taught me to sew. Through the 4-H program also, she taught a lot of girls in this county how to sew. And I'm very proud of the fact that my mother made all of the window treatments in the house. My dad helped my mother by building the cornices for her. He liked to work with wood, and together they made a great team. When we moved into the house, the basement was totally unfinished, and I did some projects down here and announced to my husband that something has to be done. So we put our heads together, and we very economically have redone half of the cellar, and I have a lovely new studio which I welcome you to. It's not huge, but it's very clean and tidy and organized, and I'm very happy to spend time down here during the day. Our local Joann store was moving into a big new space up in New Jersey, and they decided to sell some of their fixtures. So I went in and noticed that they were selling their roller table, and I asked how much, and the woman told me $35. The hardest part was taking it apart at the Joann store so that we could move it. It's tremendously heavy. It is in 3 pieces, and we disassembled the whole thing to move it to our old house. It was interesting to move down into the basement as well here. I'd like to put a light underneath here so that when I'm inspecting my fabric and it rolls by, I've got a light source underneath. I'm certain that that can be done, and that's on my bucket list. Ann Johnson's Real Workrooms video was very eye-opening to me, and I heard her mention that you can set your machines up in several different ways. I was very happy to learn about the pinwheel idea because it gives me room for my fabrics to go forward, and I have a little table here that's on wheels that I can move from station to station, and then I can have fabric to the side of me, which we all know is very helpful. I have 4 different machines here. I have my Juki straight stitch. I have a wonderful Juki 5-thread serger right here. I call this Sweetheart my blind hammer, and over here a walking foot machine. I loved setting up my machines, and I promised myself if I ever had a real workroom, I would make some things match. So I took the time and made little thread catchers and pin cushions, which are at each of my stations. And I love Jeanelle's idea of clipping to my scissors to a coil, because why are the scissors always on the other side of the room? No more. They're always right here where I need them. This is an invention that I'm proud of. I went to IKEA and I bought a magnetic knife holder, and then I went to the other side of our basement and swiped one of the holders for the ping pong table net, and I bent it and I added the IKEA knife holder, and it screws right onto my table because I like having all of my different presser feet and my screwdrivers and tweezers available and not have to go dig for them. Thanks again, Ann Johnson, for this idea. A shelf for rulers on the side of my table has made my life so much easier and my work so much more efficient. I use the shelf on this side for rulers, and I'm often clipping things on the end of the shelf. My workroom table was a combination of ideas. I first got the plans from the CHF Academy on how to build a wooden work table. We purchased from McMaster Carr. It's actually a workshop, a workbench. Also from McMaster Carr, I'd like to recommend these wonderful anti-fatigue mats. They are a real back saver. After watching Seal's video, I had to run out and buy one of these, and it is so handy. The whole family's helped me with this workroom, and my brother invented my mat holder, which we've screwed into the Luan wall that separates our workroom from our workshop. This is my rolled goods holder. It's a terrific way to store all of my tapes and my shade cords, Velcros, cording. I love that it's at the end of the table and I can just pull the tapes right to where I need to use them. This is a French drain. We vacuumed out the French drain with the shop vac, and then we put a layer of diatomaceous earth, which is a natural bug killer. We put a small layer of that in, and then we put a layer of pea pebbles, which you can get at the Home Depot, on top of the diatomaceous earth, and I haven't seen one bug. My husband built my lining rack. It was originally portable, but it's affixed now. And right here, something that I really wanted to have in my workspace. I need for everything to be dry down here. This was a dry basement to start with, but this gives me the insurance that no humidity will bother any of my fabrics or my treatments. Back here I have my storage area. This was from Joann's as well when they had their fixture sale. I picked it up for $75. Terrific for storing all of my pillow stuff and basic shelving. An antique piece from the family has come in very handy to store some of my supplies. This is my office space in the workroom where I put together my estimates and my invoices. I'm using QuickBooks Online and have found that to be very beneficial. I do find that there's an awful lot I still have to learn about it. It's a very powerful program. I also have just recently put this bulletin board up, and I'm going to be putting together some more inspiration on the bulletin board like Michele Williams suggests. I loved finding this fortune. If you develop the habits of success, you will make success a habit. The first thing we did in redoing the basement was to replace the old casement windows, which had really lived their life already. And our contractor suggested that we put in these block windows. I'm so happy that we did. When the sun is shining, the block, because it's wavy, sort of multiplies the light, and it makes it really cheerful down here. The paints for my workroom were deliberate choices. I worked with our painter and we decided to use Sherman Williams paints, and we used a sealing type of paint for the walls to prevent any moisture from coming in. On the ceilings of the workroom, my original thought had been to paint it white to make everything bright. But I got great advice from my friend who is an interior designer, and she said that white ceilings of this nature will produce a lot of unappealing shadows. and she recommended that I go with a darker color, which is why we chose a dark gray. For the floor, we used porch and floor enamel from Jean Williams, and it's been terrific. It's sealed the floor, it's easy to sweep, the bright color reflects. And then I put a rug that we had at our former house down, which makes it a little bit more cozy. This is my little collection of antique hangers so far. I really am enjoying these old wooden hangers. I have one from Linden, New Jersey, the Benedict Motel. I have one from Miller Brothers in Towson and Baltimore, where my grandmother used to buy her clothing. I love this one particularly because it folds in half and it becomes a brush that you can sweep the lint off. Isn't that swell? I've also got a small collection of my grandmother and my mother's wooden spools, which are a blast from the past. And these are some of Grandma's old clothespins, which I just think are dear. This is my very first sewing machine that I got when I was 7 years old. I found these while going through my mother's sewing things, and this was, evidently you could write away to the newspaper and get your sewing patterns delivered, and this was from my great-grandmother. This is what I'm happy about. This was my father's workbench, and now it's mine.